The story of this Gila monster isn't just about a desert creature. It's about its toxic venom. In the wild, a painful defensive weapon. Now in the lab, it was re-engineered to become a powerful offensive weapon, one that could rewrite the rules of the global economy. Imagine that for a moment. A single drop of venom, powerful enough to change what and how much ends up in your grocery cart. To understand that leap, you first have to understand the brilliant, counterintuitive science it was built on. The story of that science begins with the kind of curiosity-driven research that often leads to the biggest leaps forward. In the 1980s, scientists were using established laboratory models to better understand the complexities of the digestive system. In one such experiment, testing animal venoms on guinea pig pancreases, they made a surprising discovery. They found that the venom of the Gila monster provoked a uniquely strong reaction. At the time, it was just an interesting biological curiosity. But the breakthrough, the moment that connected this animal research directly to human medicine, came in the early 1990s. An endocrinologist at a Veterans Affairs Medical Center named Dr. John Eng took a closer look. He successfully isolated a specific peptide component from the venom, which he named Exendin 4. He then made the critical connection. He realized this lizard peptide looked remarkably similar to a hormone found in the human gut called GLP-1. GLP-1 is a key part of our natural digestive process. When you eat, your gut releases this hormone for two main reasons. First, to signal your pancreas to produce insulin, which helps manage your blood sugar. And second, it's one of the hormones that eventually tells your brain you're full. That connection between the animal model and human biology would change everything. Scientists already knew our own GLP-1 was powerful because of how it regulated blood sugar, but it had a fatal flaw. The human body metabolizes it in under 2 minutes, making it useless as a therapeutic drug. The lizard's version was the ingenious workaround. It mimicked the effects of the human hormone but was far more durable, evolved to stay active for hours. Recognizing this, Dr. Eng patented a synthetic version, which he named exenatide. This single, brilliant insight, seeing a solution in nature to a human biological problem, is what laid the foundation for the entire industry. The drug was first approved in 2005 for type 2 diabetes, a noble and specific purpose. But it had a powerful side effect, and once culture discovered it, that side effect would unleash an economic force of unimaginable scale. And what is that scale? In 2023, something happened that demonstrates the sheer economic power of this breakthrough. A single company, Novo Nordisk, the maker of Ozempic and Wegovy, became more valuable than its entire home country of Denmark. Its market cap soared past $600 billion, dwarfing Denmark's GDP of around $400 billion. In fact, it briefly became the most valuable company in all of Europe. The success of Novo Nordisk is so profound that nearly all of Denmark's recent GDP growth has been driven by its drugs. This unprecedented scale has led economists to voice a specific concern, that Denmark could be developing a case of Dutch disease, a condition where an economy becomes dangerously over-reliant on a single, booming sector to the detriment of all others. The historical parallel that looms largest is Finland's experience with Nokia. Between 1998 and 2007, the mobile phone giant accounted for a quarter of Finland's GDP growth. When Nokia's empire collapsed, the Finnish economy suffered a severe and prolonged shock. Denmark is now riding a rocket fueled by a medical miracle, but it has tied its national economic fate to the success of a single class of drugs, a high-stakes gamble by any measure. But for a company to get that big, its product has to escape the lab and enter the culture. So how did this clever piece of bioengineering become one of the most powerful economic forces on the planet? The catalyst wasn't a corporate marketing campaign. It was a decentralized cultural phenomenon. The epicenter was TikTok, where the Ozempic hashtag went viral, accumulating over 1 billion views. A study of the first 100 viral videos revealed that a staggering 86% were posted by consumers, not medical professionals. This grassroots movement was then amplified by Hollywood, where the drug became known as the worst-kept secret. This explosion in cultural awareness created a surge in off-label demand for weight loss that was so intense, it triggered global shortages of the medication. From a strategic perspective, the drug's identity was wrested from its manufacturer and redefined by the market, unlocking a vast, untapped customer base far beyond its original scope. And the mechanism behind it isn't magic, it's neuroscience, and it works in 2 devastatingly simple steps. For any strategist to understand the economic shockwave, they have to first understand the biological mechanism that caused it. It's a powerful 2-part system. First, the drug works on the brain. Think of it like turning down the volume on your hunger. It communicates with the parts of your brain that control appetite, making you feel satisfied with less food. This helps silence that little voice in your head that is always thinking about the next meal or snack. Second, it works on the stomach. It basically puts the brakes on digestion, slowing down how quickly food leaves your stomach. This creates a real physical feeling of being full that lasts for a much longer time. It's a biological 1-2 punch, diminishing the brain's hunger signals while increasing the stomach's fullness signals. This highly effective system for reducing caloric intake is the engine that would go on to disrupt entire industries. When a technology can fundamentally alter a core driver of consumer behavior like appetite, the economic consequences are immediate and immense. The shockwave hits the real world, creating a set of clear winners and the first major casualties. The first tremor wasn't a press release. It was a quiet signal buried in gigabytes of data. Deep inside Walmart's analytics department, analysts noticed something strange. Customers on GLP-1 drugs weren't just buying less food. Their entire shopping carts were changing. The signal was undeniable, and according to a Morgan Stanley report, it threatens to erase billions from the global snack food market by leading to a tangible 3% decrease in consumption by 2035. In response, the strategic thinking from Big Food is one of adaptation. As the CEO of Conagra Brands noted, if consumers begin to prefer smaller portions, the company can simply adjust its product sizes to meet that new demand. It's a defensive pivot in a changing market. But if Big Food felt a tremor, the diet industry felt a direct hit. Consider the case of Weight Watchers, now the first major casualty of the Ozempic economy. For decades, its entire business model was built on a philosophy of behavioral change and group support, using a system of diet and exercise to count calories or points. The core value proposition was that willpower could overcome biology. GLP-1 drugs didn't just challenge that philosophy, they rendered it obsolete for a rapidly growing segment of the population. The new technology was simply more effective. The financial data tells a brutal story. In 2022, Weight Watchers saw its subscriber base plummet by nearly 15% year over year, and it began posting significant operating losses. The company's market value evaporated. Faced with extinction, Weight Watchers executed a stunning strategic pivot. In 2023, they acquired Sequence, a telehealth platform that prescribes the very drugs that were destroying them. It was a textbook case of strategic capitulation, immediately validated by Wall Street. After the announcement, the company's stock screamed higher by over 42%, and after Goldman Sachs upgraded the stock to buy, it skyrocketed another 59% in a single day. But the shockwave didn't stop at the grocery aisle. It started to ripple outwards, hitting industries that had absolutely nothing to do with food in ways no one could have predicted. Airline strategists began modeling the upside. One analysis estimated that if the average passenger lost just 10 pounds, a single airline like United could save around $80 million annually in fuel, an incredible, unexpected efficiency gain. The medical device industry was hit with complex disruptions. Companies making CPAP machines for sleep apnea, a condition tied to obesity, saw their valuations crumble as GLP-1 drugs proved effective at treating the root cause. But perhaps the most bizarre and potentially profound ripple effect of all was on the alcohol industry. It wasn't about people choosing to cut calories. Users were reporting a strange and consistent side effect. Their desire for a glass of wine or a beer was simply vanishing. Anecdotes started flooding social media and forums, stories of people pouring their usual glass of wine, taking one sip, and suddenly having no interest in finishing it. One study backed this up, finding that nearly half of all weekly drinkers consumed significantly less after starting the drug. The reason, scientists discovered, was rooted deep in the brain. The drug was dampening the core reward circuits tied to pleasure and addiction, a side effect so powerful it has now opened up an entirely new field of research, using these drugs to potentially treat alcoholism and other addictions. So here's a question for you. If you were the CEO of a major food company, how would you fight back against a drug that literally makes people want less of your product? Let us know your strategy in the comments. But what if I told you the next chapter of the story could make injections completely obsolete? This entire multi-$100 billion empire has so far been built on a single piece of technology, the injectable pen. And that needle problem represents a glass ceiling the industry has been desperate to smash. It's what has ignited the next great war in pharmaceuticals. As successful as they are, injectables have a natural market cap due to cost, logistics, and the simple fact that many people just don't like needles. The company that solves this with a cheap, effective, and safe oral pill will achieve total market dominance. A pill is the holy grail. It transforms a medical treatment into a ubiquitous consumer product and unlocks the full potential of this economic revolution, potentially expanding the market to over $150 billion. With trillions of dollars in future revenue on the line, the titans of pharma are now in an all-out war. In fact, this clash of titans, a dominant founder versus a hungry opportunist, is a classic strategic pattern. We saw this exact same dynamic play out in the tech world in our deep dive on Microsoft versus Apple. You can find a link to that full investigation at the end of this video. Just like that battle, this one is a clash of philosophies. On one side, you have Novo Nordisk, the founder. They built the market from the ground up, a monumental achievement of science and risk. On the other side is Lilly, the opportunist. They watched, learned from Novo's stumbles, and are now on an all-out offensive to dominate the mass market with their own powerful drugs and a more resilient supply chain. The pivot from a war of R&D to a war of logistics cannot be overstated. The billions being invested are staggering. Novo Nordisk's massive $16.5 billion acquisition of the manufacturing firm Catalent is one of the largest in the industry's history, a direct move to buy production capacity. In parallel, Eli Lilly is pouring $5.3 billion into a new manufacturing plant in Indiana, designed to ensure it never gets caught in the kind of supply crunch that crippled its rival. This is a fundamental shift in pharmaceutical strategy. The winners in this new economy will not just be the ones with the best scientists, but the ones with the most robust and resilient factory floors. They are building the industrial foundations for this multi-billion-dollar market, and the company that can scale production fastest will hold the ultimate competitive advantage. From a single drop of venom in the desert to the boardrooms of the most powerful companies on earth, what we've just witnessed is the anatomy of a 21st century industrial revolution, one that starts with a spark of human ingenuity, a clever observation from the natural world. That spark is honed by science into a powerful new technology. That technology is then unleashed upon the market, where it acts as a catalyst, triggering a cascade of unpredictable second-order consequences. It creates a new economic reality. Entire business models, like Weight Watchers, are rendered obsolete. trillion-dollar industries like big food are forced to adapt or decline. And unexpected sectors, from airlines to medtech, discover unforeseen threats and opportunities. The story of GLP-1 drugs is more than a health story. It's a story about the raw power of innovation. It shows how one breakthrough can ripple through the entire economic ecosystem, creating new titans of industry and leaving a trail of disruption in its wake. The war between Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly for market supremacy is not just a fight over a drug. It's a battle to define the next chapter of consumer behavior and corporate strategy. The board has been set, the pieces are moving, and the multi-billion-dollar game is just getting started. The story of the Ozempic economy, how one innovation can trigger a cascade of unforeseen consequences, isn't an isolated event. It's a pattern we see again and again across the global economy. For example, the chaos and frustration of the modern airline industry wasn't an accident. In a previous deep dive, we exposed how a single law signed in 1978 created a profit-obsessed machine that was literally built to make you uncomfortable. And in the world of big tech, we uncovered the secret decade-long chess match Microsoft played while everyone was hypnotized by Apple, a strategy that is now threatening to upend an entire empire. These are all stories about the hidden systems that shape our world. If you want to understand the blueprint for how the airline industry was designed to fail, or see the secret strategy that put Apple on the defensive, you can click on the links for those two investigations right here on the screen. To stay on top of the latest strategic moves, make sure you're subscribed to Janice Talks. The Ozempic economy isn't just a health story or a business story. It's a blueprint for how biology is beginning to rewrite the rules of the global economy. The next time you see a smaller soda can on the shelf, or notice there seem to be fewer chips in the bag, remember, it's not just inflation. You might be seeing the ripple effect of a lizard's venom from half a world away. Thanks for watching.